The bright studio lights cast a glow over the grinning face of talk show host Jake Reynolds as he leaned forward, resting his elbows on the glossy desk. The crowd chuckled as he played a clip of Elon Musk's latest interview, where the billionaire had stumbled over a question about his controversial decisions at X, formerly Twitter. Jake smirked, shaking his head. I mean, come on, this is the guy who thinks he's some genius visionary. He can't even answer a basic question about his own company without sounding like a malfunctioning chatbot. The audience erupted into laughter, and Jake continued. I bet if we ask him why his rockets keep blowing up, he'll just say, it's part of the process. He mocked in a robotic voice, sending another wave of amusement through the crowd. The segment quickly went viral, with social media eating up the mockery. Clips flooded the internet, each one framing Musk as clueless, out of touch, and failing at the very platforms he had promised to revolutionize. Jake, feeling triumphant, doubled down in the following episodes, making Musk a recurring punchline, but Musk wasn't one to stay silent. Instead of firing off a typical blunt tweet, he had something else in mind. A few days later, Jake received an unexpected notification, an invitation to SpaceX's headquarters. The email was brief but intriguing. If you want to laugh at failure, why not see what we actually do? Musk's personal assistant had written. Jake, sensing an opportunity for more material, accepted the invite. With a camera crew in tow, he arrived at the SpaceX facility, expecting a grand display of arrogance from Musk. But what he got was something entirely different. Musk greeted him with a casual nod, leading him through the massive facility. Engineers buzzed around high-tech machinery, screens flashed with complex calculations, and a nearly completed Starship prototype stood towering in the background. All right, let's get to it, Musk said with a smirk. You're here to see what failure looks like, right? Jake chuckled, ready to quip back, but Musk pulled up a tablet and started playing a reel of SpaceX rocket crashes. Explosions, failed landings, boosters flipping out of control. It was a greatest hits compilation of disasters. This, Musk said, eyes glinting with amusement, is how we succeed. Jake frowned, thrown off. Musk continued. Every one of these failures got us closer to where we are today. People mocked us when Falcon 1 failed 3 times. 4th one worked. Now we're sending humans to space. The talk show host, who had come prepared to laugh, found himself silent. Musk gestured to a nearby launch pad on a screen. Tomorrow we're testing another Starship. Might explode. Might make history. Either way, we'll learn. He grinned. Want to place a bet? Jake hesitated. The entire situation was shifting. This wasn't the eccentric, floundering billionaire he had made fun of. This was a man who embraced failure as a stepping stone to greatness. The next day, Jake sat in the VIP section as the countdown began. The engines roared to life and Starship lifted off, ascending into the sky. It made it past the most dangerous stage before. Boom! A fiery explosion lit up the horizon. Gasps filled the room, but Musk, standing nearby, just nodded. Not bad, he muttered. Got further than last time. He turned to Jake. See? Not failure, just progress. Jake left SpaceX with a lot to think about. That night on his show, he played the launch footage, but instead of mocking, he admitted, I went there thinking I'd get more jokes out of Musk. But what I saw was a guy who embraces failure, learns from it, and keeps pushing forward. Maybe that's why he's where he is, and why most of us are just watching. Musk's response? A simple tweet. Welcome to the process, Jake. Jake's words sent shockwaves through his audience. The sarcastic, quick-witted host, known for his sharp critiques, had just given Elon Musk a rare moment of respect. Social media exploded. Some praised him for being open-minded, while others accused him of selling out or falling for Musk's PR stunt. Jake didn't care. Something had shifted in him. He had spent years ridiculing people from behind a desk, but seeing Musk operate firsthand made him realize that real change, the kind that shaped industries and sent rockets into space, came from taking risks, failing, and trying again. A week later, Jake received another message from Musk. This time it was just a link. Jake clicked it and was directed to a live feed of another SpaceX launch. This time, the rocket cleared every danger zone and made a flawless landing. The control room at SpaceX erupted in cheers. Seconds later, Musk tweeted, "Progress." Jake chuckled, shaking his head as he watched the celebration. He pulled out his phone and typed a response. "All right, Elon, you got me. Maybe failure isn't so funny after all." Musk's reply came instantly. "It's still pretty funny." Jake laughed. Maybe it was. But it was also the reason Musk was still winning. Jake sat back in his chair, staring at the Twitter exchange that was now blowing up online. His followers were in a frenzy, some cheering him on for acknowledging Musk's mindset, others accusing him of going soft. But for the first time in a long time, Jake didn't feel the need to cater to either side. The next night on his show, he decided to address it directly. The intro played, the applause faded, and he leaned forward, looking straight into the camera. "So, unless you've been living under a rock, or just don't care about billionaires arguing on the internet, you probably saw my back and forth with Elon Musk." He paused, smirking. "Yeah, turns out the guy can take a joke. More than that, he can turn failure into success in a way that most of us don't even have the guts to try." The audience was silent, waiting. Jake rarely broke character like this. "I've spent years sitting at this desk, taking shots at people who make big claims, big promises, and sometimes big mistakes. It's easy to laugh when you're not the one risking anything. But Musk, the guy's out there actually doing it. Whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny that." He let the moment sit, then grinned. "Now don't get me wrong. If he does something dumb next week, you bet I'm making fun of him again." Laughter rippled through the crowd. But credit where it's due. He fires back in the best way possible, by proving people wrong. The clip from the show went viral, but this time it wasn't because of mockery. It was because Jake had said something that felt real. The next morning, his phone buzzed with another notification from Musk. It was a DM. "Want to see what we're doing at Tesla next?" Jake chuckled. He wasn't sure if Musk was extending an olive branch or just enjoying the back and forth. Either way, he typed back, "Only if I get to take a Cybertruck through a brick wall." A few seconds later, Musk replied, "Deal." A week later, Jake found himself standing in the middle of Tesla's Gigafactory, staring at the beast of a vehicle in front of him. The Cybertruck looked even more ridiculous in person, like something out of a sci-fi movie that somehow ended up on Earth by mistake. Musk walked up beside him, hands in his pockets, a small grin on his face. "You ready?" Jake smirked, adjusting the Tesla-branded helmet Musk had insisted he wear. "So, just to be clear, I get to drive this thing through that wall." He pointed to a thick concrete barrier about 20 yards ahead, reinforced with steel beams. Musk shrugged. "We've tested it against everything else. Might as well see how it holds up to a talk show host's reckless driving." The cameras were rolling. This was going to be huge. Jake wasn't just here for the experience, he was making content. His crew was filming from every angle, and Tesla's own media team was loving every second of it. Jake climbed into the Cybertruck, feeling the raw power beneath his hands. Musk leaned through the window. "Floor it." Jake didn't need to be told twice. He slammed the accelerator and the Cybertruck launched forward, the electric motors delivering instant torque. The factory blurred around him, the concrete wall rushing closer. He braced himself. Boom. Dust and debris exploded into the air as the Cybertruck smashed through the wall, chunks of concrete flying in every direction. The impact shook the entire vehicle, but as the dust settled, Jake realized something incredible. The Cybertruck was still moving. He hit the brakes, coming to a stop about 50 feet past the wreckage. His heart pounded as he looked around. The windshield? Still intact. The body? Barely a scratch. The only real damage was to the wall, which now looked like it had been hit by a wrecking ball. Jake threw open the door and stepped out, coughing through the dust. Musk, standing with the crew, simply nodded. "Not bad," he said. "I think you just sold a few thousand more." The moment was instantly iconic. Within hours, the internet was flooded with clips of Jake's Cybertruck smash test, memes, reaction, Videos and breakdowns of the stunt dominated social media. Jake's own post went viral. "All right, Elon Musk, I admit it. That was fun. What's next?" Musk's reply, "Mars." Jake laughed when he saw Musk's reply. "Mars. The guy never stopped thinking big," he typed back, half joking. "Gotta learn to drive a spaceship first." A few seconds later, Musk responded, "We can arrange that." Jake's eyes widened. Was he serious? A week later, he got his answer when a sleek black Tesla Model X pulled up outside his studio. The driver stepped out and handed him an envelope. Inside was a simple card with the SpaceX logo and a handwritten note. "Hope you don't get motion sickness." Elon attached was an itinerary, private tour, astronaut training, and a ride on the zero-gravity Vomit Comet. Jake stared at it, then looked up at his crew. "Well, guess I'm going to space camp." The next few days were a blur of insane experiences. First came the astronaut training, simulators, G-force machines, and learning how to float in microgravity. Jake went in thinking it would be a joke, but by the end of day one he was drenched in sweat, barely able to stand. "This is brutal," he admitted on camera, clutching his stomach after a spin in the centrifuge. "I have so much more respect for astronauts, and also I might throw up." Then came the big event, the zero-gravity flight. Musk himself showed up, smirking as Jake suited up. "You mocked me on national television," he said, fastening his own harness. "So, I figured the least I could do is make you puke at 30,000 feet. Jake rolled his eyes. "That's fair." The plane took off, climbing higher and higher. Then, suddenly, it dove. For a few seconds, gravity vanished. Jake's body lifted off the floor, his arms flailing. "Oh, this is insane," he shouted, spinning in midair. Around him, Musk floated calmly, arms crossed like he did this every day. "You get used to it," Musk said casually. Jake tumbled, trying to stabilize himself. "I don't think I will." Then he stopped. The sheer wonder of it hit him. He wasn't standing. He wasn't falling. He was floating. For the first time in a long time, he was speechless. The video of Jake's SpaceX adventure broke the internet. His channel exploded with millions of new views and subscribers. The comments flooded in. "Okay, this is actually insane. I can't believe a talk show host is doing astronaut training." Musk really turned his biggest critic into a fan. But Jake wasn't a fan. He was something else. He had started this as a joke, a way to poke fun at Musk's grand ideas. But now, he was in the middle of them, and he wasn't just watching, he was part of it. That night he tweeted, "All right, Elon Musk, I'll bite. How serious are you about Mars?" Musk's reply came instantly, "Pack a bag." Jake stared at Musk's reply, "Pack a bag." The guy had to be joking, all right? Except with Musk, you could never tell. A few days later, Jake got another message, this time from SpaceX's official team. The subject line read, "Mission briefing. Starship to the moon." Jake's jaw dropped. The moon? He skimmed the email. SpaceX was planning a test flight for Starship, a full orbital trip with no landing, just a journey around the moon and back, and Musk was inviting him to be part of the civilian crew. Jake immediately called his producer. "Dude, I think I'm going to space." The next few months were surreal. Jake trained harder than ever. Underwater simulations for weightlessness, emergency protocols, even survival training in case they splashed down somewhere unexpected. He was still making his usual comedy videos, but now they had a new edge. People weren't just watching for jokes anymore. They were watching to see if he'd actually go. And then, launch day arrived. Standing on the SpaceX platform, suited up, in full astronaut gear, Jake felt the weight of it all. The cameras were rolling, the world was watching. Musk stood beside him, grinning. "Still think I'm a malfunctioning chatbot?" Jake chuckled. "Ask me after we make it back." The countdown began. The engines roared, and then, liftoff. Jake was pressed into his seat as Starship tore through the atmosphere, fire and force, pushing them into the blackness of space. His heart pounded. His breath caught in his throat. Then, suddenly, silence. They were weightless. floating, in space. Jake unbuckled, pushing himself toward the window. Below him, Earth stretched out in breathtaking blue. His usual sarcasm vanished. "Holy, I have no words," he whispered. Musk floated beside him, arms crossed, a knowing smirk on his face. "Welcome to the process." The trip around the moon took days, but for Jake it felt like a single moment stretched into eternity. Every time he looked out at the vast, endless black, he felt something change inside him. By the time they re-entered Earth's atmosphere, his mind was made up. Back on solid ground, after the world had gone wild over the mission, Jake sat down for his first show back. The audience was electric. He let the cheers die down before leaning into the mic. "So," he began, "I went to space." Laughter. Applause. Jake took a deep breath. "And you know what? I think I finally get it." He glanced at the camera, thinking of Musk's words, thinking of everything he had seen. "We all love to sit back and mock the people who dream big. We call them crazy. We call them reckless. We laugh when they fail." He paused. "But those are the same people who actually do things, who push boundaries, who take us further than we've ever been." The crowd was silent now. Jake smirked. "So yeah, Elon Musk fired back. Not with insults, not with cheap shots, but by proving me wrong." He leaned back. "And honestly, I respect the hell out of that." His phone buzzed. He glanced down. A notification from Musk. "Mars?" Jake grinned. "Give me a minute." Jake barely had time to process being back on Earth before the next wave hit. His show had never been more popular. The space trip had turned him from just another late-night host into something bigger, an entertainer who had actually lived the story. His DMs were flooded with offers, documentaries, interviews, brand deals. Everyone wanted a piece of the guy who mocked Musk and then went to space with him. But Jake couldn't shake one thought. Mars. It had been a joke at first, but Musk kept bringing it up. And now? Now it didn't seem as impossible as it had before. That night he opened his laptop and started researching. Not for a comedy segment, not for a joke. For real. 2 weeks later, Jake was back at SpaceX, standing in front of Starship 2.0. Bigger, faster, built for interplanetary travel. Musk walked up beside him, hands in his pockets, that ever-present smirk on his face. "So," Musk said, "are you in?" Jake let out a slow breath. "You're actually doing this, a real Mars mission?" Musk nodded. "No tourists this time. We're talking settlers, engineers, scientists." His grin widened, and maybe one loudmouth comedian to document it all. Jake raised an eyebrow. "You want me to be the first talk show host on Mars?" Musk shrugged. "Somebody's got to make fun of the aliens." Jake laughed, but his stomach twisted. This wasn't just another stunt. This was years. A one-way ticket for some. A gamble with life itself. But wasn't that the point? The thing he had learned from Musk? The reason he had stopped laughing at him and started listening? Jake looked up at the rocket, then back at Musk. He grinned. "All right, screw it, let's go to Mars." The internet exploded when Jake made the announcement. Late-night host signs up for Mars mission. Jake Reynolds is leaving Earth, literally. Elon Musk convinces comedian to risk it all for the ultimate punchline. The jokes were endless. Late-night rivals roasted him. Twitter was a war zone. Half the people calling him a sellout, the other half calling him a legend. And through it all, Jake sat in the SpaceX training facility, sweating through another brutal day of preparation. This wasn't like his last trip. This wasn't a test flight around the moon. This was Mars. Over the next year, Jake went through hell. He trained with engineers, survivalists, astronauts, learning how to repair spacecraft, grow food in Martian soil, and survive in an atmosphere that wanted him dead. He did emergency drills, ran simulations, even lived in an isolation pod for a full month to test his mental endurance. Somewhere along the way, the cameras stopped mattering. The showbiz side of it, the social media clout, the viral moments, faded into the background. Because this wasn't a stunt anymore. This was real. Finally, launch day arrived. Jake stood on the platform, fully suited up, staring at the starship that would take him to another planet. Musk stood beside him, arms crossed. Still think I'm a joke? Jake smirked. Nah, I think you're insane. But maybe that's what it takes. Musk nodded. It does. The countdown began. The engines roared. And then, liftoff. Jake was leaving Earth, for good. Months later, a single broadcast was beamed back to Earth, a shaky video feed, the red Martian landscape stretching endlessly behind a man in a bulky spacesuit. Jake grinned into the camera. All right, Earth, I made it. He took a deep breath, looking around at the first human settlement on Mars. Then, with a smirk, he delivered the first ever joke from another planet. Hey, Elon Musk, the Wi-Fi sucks.